Welcome to NFL World, where NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And to begin, we're going to talk about the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell has landed a new contract that puts him through the spring of 2027. His last contract was set to expire next year. So the question becomes, how long will Roger Goodell reign as commissioner? If I remember correctly, Goodell has held this position since 2007. As it says here, Goodell's contract extension runs through the spring of 2027 following approval. Goodell has held this position. Goodell will turn 65 the week of the Super Bowl. One source said, why wouldn't it be him? The contract, he's held the position since 2001, has done a good job, done, as it's been worded here, done a well job. He's previously on contract extensions in 2009, 2012, and in 2017. Now, whether or not he deserves the contracts that extensions that he's gotten with Spygate, Bountygate, in the situations with some athletes, he's got it. He was one of the many who created the new CBA. He was a part of that. Will Goodell leave after this 3-year extension? He'll be 68 years old. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know. The best example I can give is the longest tenured guy, I think, if I in at least recent history, was Pete Rozelle. Pete Rozelle held that office for 30 years. Goodell has held that office, is going to hold that office for 20. How long does Goodell hold the office past that? That's the question that we can't answer. Now, moving on into some interesting pieces of note. The Dolphins' Jalen Ramsey is back at practice 2 months ahead of schedule and is close to returning, yet his return date is still to be determined. If I'm the Dolphins, we were told we were going to get him back in December. There's a possibility we get him in November. Why not? Why not? Let's see what happens. Because it's not getting easier. We know that the Jets, even though their offense has not been great, they've won games. We got to keep up with the Bills. Why not? If he's even closer to being back in late November, you're happy. You'll deal with that instead of potentially only getting him in late December, like everyone initially thought. Next up, let me make sure I find it. Okay. So the Packers have signed former running back of the Giants, the Patriots, the Jets, the Jaguars. Have I left anyone out? James Robinson. James Robinson, as I said, bounced around. He's been around. He tore his Achilles after having a great year in Jacksonville, his rookie year. He gets traded to the Jets, doesn't work out there, goes to the Patriots, gets cut, goes to the Giants, there for a couple of weeks, gets cut. Now he's in Green Bay. The art of playing in the NFL, if you're not a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, or these quarterbacks, this is how it works. Most of the time, this is how it works. James Robinson is figuring that out. Now, they bolster that position in Green Bay. They've had injuries. Aaron Jones is not quite there yet. A.J. Dillon has struggled. You want another kind of change the pace back that can do these things. Let's see what happens. And just that, it just came in now from the Indianapolis Colts is Colts running back, Colts rookie quarterback, excuse me. Colts rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson is done for the year. He's going to undergo surgery on his AC joint injury. He is done for the year. So that means it's the Gardner Minshew show. Minshew mania, as many have said. Now, they said that before the loss to Jacksonville. Let's see what happens after this week. But be it very clear, Anthony Richardson, done for the year. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles have signed Julio Jones. Now, Jones, as many people have said, is ring chasing at this point. This is probably the best way he can end his career, going on the best team to have one of the best chances to win. Jones has definitely on the outside of his career. Like, this is pretty much it. There's no other reason for this. Jones, if I remember correctly, is 33. If I remember correctly, 34. This came after the Eagles have placed Quez Watkins on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. They also worked out Marquise Callaway and Desmond Patton on Monday before deciding to sign Julio Jones. Now, everyone knows how great Julio Jones has been in his career, but also we tend to forget over the last part of this decade, he's not been good. He's been pretty bad and pretty pedestrian in many times. When he was in Tennessee, when he was in Tampa, and now he's in Philadelphia. Now, he's not going to be the number one option. He's not going to even be the number two option. So what are they exactly going to have him do? Are they going to have him as red zone threats? What are they going to do? It also elaborates that Jalen Hurts also now this is not termed correctly, but they say that Jalen Hurts now has another weapon, as Hurts has as many touchdowns as he does interceptions. They worded this, however, very particularly because they said another Alabama alum, Jalen Hurts. Okay, sure, whatever. That's a slight. That's very slight. That what we're saying right there. But Jalen Hurts has a new weapon, and it's Julio Jones. And Julio Jones is still effective, by the way. It's just, do you want him in a meaningful role at this point of his career? No. No, you do not. Next up, the 49ers have announced that there is a possibility that Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, who got hurt and did not return, could play in Week 7. Since it's Monday night game, okay, I buy that. That's fair. If it wasn't, I'd still buy it, but at the same time, it's dicey. It's more and more dicey the less time you have to put. Next up, we talk Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was seen throwing, not actually throwing, soft tossing more or less. And he, without crutches, he was moving around a little bit. He was on the sidelines. He was standing. He had the headset on, as we said on Monday's show, and he's as he said, he's close. He's ahead of schedule, which is good. I think the question needs to come: when's a likely time if he could return? If. That's the big if. When's, and I think the answer is 16, 17, maybe 18. That range. I saw people say as soon as week 14, and I said that's not possible. You're not going to come back that quickly. It's just unrealistic. 16, 17, 18, maybe 18 if depends on how. I really think he might push it depending on how the season goes. If they're a game out and they have their last game of the year and they need a win to get in, that's, I think, a game he plays. Just me personally. And finally, or actually, no, two more things. Here we go. The Cowboys pass rusher, Micah Parsons, went and talked about Cowboys critics, but he didn't say it like that. He said, you guys criticize us no matter if we win or lose. You criticize our quarterback, you criticize our coach, you criticize our team. Which they do. And he said, but you don't criticize other teams like you criticize us. You don't criticize us in the same way. If the Eagles play bad, or Jalen Hurts plays bad like he did against the Jets, it's he had a bad game. I'm sorry, he had a bad game. Like he was not great, but he had a bad game. Everyone's entitled to have a bad game. Where if Dak Prescott does that, Dak Prescott's terrible. He's washed. Cut him now. They're singing from the rooftops. This is basically how it works. Now, media doesn't want to hear this, especially on ESPN. They have to have one guy be like, "Oh, I choose the Cowboys side," and you have to have another guy who's like, "No, this is problem." And so that's the way they kind of work this nonsense. But it works. It gets views, and it's what they want. Micah Parsons does have a point here. Every team, this is what was said. We saw this, okay? The Ravens almost lost to Tennessee. Almost. Kicked a boatload of field goals. And you can argue that the Ravens should have beaten the Titans by more. You can argue that. Did not happen. And yet we're still praising how good the Ravens are. And I know they don't have one player. I know they don't have another player. But the Cowboys, who beat the Chargers by 3, and yet that's not impressive. Who cares? They won. Who cares if it's impressive? I don't. Did they win? Did they lose? Dak Prescott had to answer this question. It was a dumb question at the end of this game. Was this a must-win game? And Dak's like, I won't say exactly what he did, but he's like, yes, yeah, absolutely. And he elaborated. He said, there's a difference. There's a huge difference between going into your bye week at 3-3 and going into your bye week at 4-2. And he talks about the experience they had a couple years ago where they were They went to their bye week, and they were under 500. He talks about that experience. He talks about that experience and what it was like to be under 500, go in their bye week, and then what they had to do that year to get back. Well, he's just basically saying it's much better to be 4-2 than it is to be 3-3. And yet the media asked this question, like as if they knew the answer, and yet they asked him this question. That's how the media operates. But Micah took it a step further. Micah went on his podcast, On the Edge, which is a really good podcast. And Micah went and said they didn't criticize how San Francisco played because of injuries. Caffrey's out, Debo's out. And Micah brought up a great point. And Micah, as athletically and physically gifted as he is, he is incredibly smart. Almost at the times he shoots off his mouth. And what I mean by that is he talks too much at times. But he brought up a great point. He said, McCaffrey is out, Debo's out. That's what the media said. But it's like we forget that the Browns did not have Deshaun Watson or Nick Chubb, which the media will cleverly keep in the back closet so they can make their point. When it doesn't fit their narrative anymore, that's when they don't use that narrative anymore. They create a whole nother narrative that fits their narrative. Once it doesn't do that anymore, they create another one, and then another, and then another. It's like lying to a person. That web becomes so much bigger, eventually it's going to collapse on itself. And Micah Parsons is poking holes in it, and a lot of players are now. And we're seeing ESPN start really getting down to the ground at this point. Okay, we're going to predictions. So the games that we are predicting are Bills and Patriots. The first game, Patriots are getting plus 8.5. I have the Bills winning this game. I just don't trust the Patriots at all. I think it's the Patriots will actually score in this game. This is a stat that Jim Nantz said. The Patriots hadn't been in the red zone in 3 games prior to the Raiders game. They hadn't been in the red zone. Never mind in the end zone. They hadn't been in the red zone in 3 games. If I remember correctly, that game was against the Jets. That's the last time. They hadn't been in the red zone since that time. If I remember correctly. That's absurdity. So with that, Bills win 40-10. Next up, Lions, Ravens. Ravens favored by 3. Honestly, I don't know how. I think Lions win this game because it's going to be a game that's like, it's hard fought. I connect hard fought wins to Dan Campbell. And I have the Lions winning 24-20. In these situations, I think the Lions win these close games. And I think the way it'll be all year. Next up, Chargers versus the Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 5.5. I have the Chiefs winning. These games are close. Every time these two teams face each other, they're close. I don't know why. It's just the case. But I have Chiefs winning 28-24 over the LA Chargers. Next up, we have Dolphins at Eagles. Sunday Night Football. Eagles are favored by 2. I don't know how. I went and I looked on stuff about Darius Slay, Jalen Carter. Is there anything? Nope, not yet. If Darius Slay plays in this game and gets re-injured, that's a problem. That's a problem. So I don't think he plays in this game. But if he doesn't, I don't trust anyone they really have behind him anyway. So I have the Dolphins winning this game. The over-under is 52. I think you might want to stamp the over in this one. Dolphins win. Actually, it's pretty dead on, but you might not want to stamp the over. You might get it if you just stamp the under. I have it 31-21 Dolphins. But it could be a higher scoring game than that. Next up, and final game, the Monday Night Football game. 49ers at Vikings. Vikings are getting +7. I have the 49ers winning. I don't think Vikings are very good. Their defense is terrible. I have the 49ers winning 31-10. I trust Kirk Cousins. Not in prime time, but I trust Kirk Cousins. But gosh, this defense is a mess. No Justin Jefferson. I don't think Addison can really beat Tre'Davious Ward at a consistent rate. I don't know about Osborne exactly against Lenore. So I have Niners winning 31-10. So what do you guys think about my predictions? Let me know in the comment section. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hebert. Out.